Welcome to Aspire to Lead, where we empower educators and school leaders to grow, inspire, and thrive. I'm your host, Joshua Stamper, author, speaker, and leadership coach, bringing you conversations that spark transformation, challenge the status quo in education, and equip you to make a lasting impact on your campus or in your district. For more information and resources, visit joshstamper.com as we're looking to ascend to new leadership heights together. All right, welcome back, Aspire Leaders. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving with family and friends. I have the pleasure and honor of having my co-author, co-host, co-everything, co-trainer, Charle Peck, as we have been doing a ton of work together for, what would we say, Charle? 2 years now?
Yeah, at least.
At least.
Yes.
Yeah, time flies.
Yes.
I had to really think about that. So if you're someone who consumes the Aspire to Lead podcast often, you've probably heard many conversations with Charle in the past, both as her as a guest, but I've also shared the Language of Behavior podcast that we co-host together and tried to, promote that a little bit on this feed. So I appreciate everyone that has listened not only to Aspire to Lead, but also the Language of Behavior. And with that, Charle, we're going to be talking about the power of cohort training, because we've been really taking on this new model and working with school districts all over this country. And then, of course, I've got also a Aspire to Lead cohort for aspiring leaders, but we're not going to talk a ton about that today. Although I will say before we start our conversation that, there's only a few days left for those who are interested to apply and get situated for that, because we're going to launch it on December 1st and I'm going to close it the day before. So November 30th is the last day for folks to join the Aspire to Lead cohort. So if it's something that you're interested in, maybe you're on the fence, feel free to reach out. We can jump on a call together. Or if it's something that you want to jump in with these folks, these wonderful, amazing teachers that are wanting to become leaders someday, make sure that you're applying and getting set up for that. And I will say too, there's a few founding member prices out there that are left over, memberships. So if that's something that you want to jump on, make sure you do that before those are all taken up. But I'm super excited about the cohort. And Charle has heard behind the scenes as I'm building this beautiful community. But let's go over, Charle, to talk about what we're doing with school districts. Do you want to kind of set the stage as to what we've built?
Absolutely. But I really do wish I had your cohort when I was teaching and wanted to get into leadership. So yeah, that's just like so nice that you're running that. There's so many people who would benefit. Okay. The work that we are doing is really equipping educators, but we form the mental health team because we want them to know how to equip their educators who are in the classroom. So we do actually have a couple of teachers in our cohort, don't we, Josh? And we do have some administrators, we have school social workers, and we have school counselors in there. But it really with district leaders in there too, because it had to encompass a unique team that were handpicked because they have leadership, and notice that there are teachers in that too. But it's about the team coming together to learn the skills that we never learned in the teacher programs, but the ones that they're craving in a simplified way based on those like the essential skills, the skill sets. And then it's got the insights from our language of behavior. I love it because it's monthly and we get to come together after they've practiced and then give them support on the Voxer. It's just a neat way. But so I'm telling people this, Josh, but what am I missing? Like, what do people need to know? Because it's just such a nice way of training a whole group.
Yeah. Well, let's back up, because you had some keywords that I kind of honed in on. So you talked about the mental health team, and not everybody has that constructed. I know you've written about it. It's something that we train on and talk about in our keynotes and our breakouts and our workshops. But, this is truly something that this district that I'm thinking of specifically, that you were talking about all the different folks that are in it. It's like a district-wide mental health team that's been put together. So will you just kind of talk about the formation of that and why it's important?
Well, yeah. So the person who formed it had just seen the work that we've done together and some stuff from my first book. There's some skills. And so it has to be skill building because that's what we're lacking. And so it resonated with him. And he said, I really wish my teachers had these skills. And I said, well, people have to worry about budgets, right? Districts have to worry about budgets. So they didn't have a whole lot of budget, but they had a substantial amount to where they could then invest in their mental health team members, including like those leadership people that we talked about, the teachers and the school counselors and other kind of notable people who want to champion change and improve the mental health and well-being of the whole school community. Because when they acquire the skill and understand it and learn it from their perspective, then they can model it and practice it and then get coaching from us and consultation. then they can go back and master it. So then they can now deliver it themselves. Now there's not like there's a separate license to do that, but they're learning the basics and they don't have to license anything if they just want to take it and start using it themselves. I mean, then you model it, right? You don't have to do any formal training if you just even want to start with the cohort model, just to acquire the skills, but they can then radiate from the inside out. That's how we're making the transformation from the inside out. That's the whole approach.
All right. So Charle, you talked about kind of that first part, which is really working with the individual and the teacher. Will you just kind of talk about that? I think that's very unique for the cohort model and what we're doing with the 9 essential skills. And we'll talk about the 9 essential skills in just a moment. But I think like that mindset and trying to prepare folks, I think a lot of the educators were surprised by that.
Right. Well, we went into it and we gave an orientation of what are we doing here? What are the problems? We gathered data and really we did a needs assessment. And that's what had to start. So there's so many different ways we could take it, but it seems like it comes back to the educator needs to be equipped and regulate. I mean, they've got to start off feeling okay. So that's why we always start off, the first part has to be at what's going on with me? What am I dealing with? And how can I manage that before I can even lead other people or respond effectively to the needs of others? So that's how we started it. Teachers really appreciate that. And the people in the group appreciate that the teachers are being looked after and the leaders are being regarded as now looking after their needs, because that has been an issue.
Well, and the other thing too is they don't really get a whole lot of time to do that in their job.
Right.
So to be able to have that space and that time carved out in their schedule and allowed to actually reflect and do some of these different skills and strategies and build off that is huge. And I think they're very appreciative of that time, that space. And I think that also enhances the relationship between the educator and the district.
That is a great point, Josh. It absolutely is, because first of all, again, they feel like their needs are being met or they're being listened to, or that their time and their energy and their contribution is just as important as the students. So if you think traditionally of what we've done for kids is we've equipped kids. We've had advisory classes, we have SEL. We try to teach them those character education traits or character education to get more traits. But we actually haven't done much with the educators that are surrounding them. So that's what's been wrong. So we go and we try to equip the students and we say, go do this, go regulate, do better. And then we send them right back with those burned out teachers and home to stressed out parents, but expecting the kid to function well. And there's just been so much talk about teacher mental health. Well, finally, the district is saying, I hear you. I get it. And now we're investing in you. And we're forming this group that we can all lean on each other. That's what the Voxer support is. But also they reach out to us in between sessions too. So we're facilitating that support as well throughout the whole school year. But I love it. I think that is so important that you said that, Josh, because they feel important because they carved out time. There is time for them to just sit and do this. And remember the last session. So the last session, you all, is we had people, and you can imagine like so much. It was on a Friday, so much going on, so many emails to respond to. And there was one moment I said, listen, you all, I need you to just stop. Don't look at your screen. I know you want to, but look at me. And we had about 5 minutes of just quiet and calm and kind of processing that in that space. It was nice. I got a lot of feedback afterwards for that. People emailed me. They appreciated it in that short amount of time.
Well, and also, I mean, during that activity, you were really trying to get them to focus on their mental health and to get them in a good space. It's just something that we haven't had modeled for us very often,
Right.
or it's not something that's even related to education, like maybe in our personal life in some way, that you've had some meditation or something like that that's allowed you that to be taught or modeled, but like we don't really merge the two. And so I loved it. I mean, I also love the idea of like you were talking about, like identifying different sore points or pain in the body. And is this the activity you're referring to?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yeah. And for me, I was like, oh goodness, my lower back for some reason is hurting, but I didn't actually like in the moment and during the training, that wasn't identified in my brain. But once I had the time to actually like sit there and scan my entire body, I was like, oh, I didn't even notice that. And so just taking the time and space to realize that and trying to figure out like, well, obviously there's something that's stressful that's, honing in on that part of my body. I mean, I thought that was a great exercise.
it's something that we're not really taught to do. And
Mm-mm.
I remember teaching and learning as I was a teacher, I got to teach about mental health, but I got to teach about the brain and the body connection and trauma. And this was years ago. And I thought, oh my gosh, why are we not integrating this stuff in the middle of our day? Because we're overwhelmed. It benefits kids. It benefits us. Like, I want to love my job. I don't want it to be a burden. I love kids and I loved teaching. So that's why I actually became a therapist, so I could learn more about this and also practice it so that we could provide that support for the education system and the helping role, that helping profession. There's just so much we can do and integrate into our daily practice, but it does carry over into our personal life too. So one of the things I want people to do, I want your audience to do right now is just to notice like your face. So sometimes people just sitting there like, oh, my face is actually like scrunched up and they don't relax it. Or you're like going into your car and you sit there in the car. I think I said this on Friday. And you just sit in your car and your shoulders just kind of relax. I'm like, oh my gosh, how long have I been tensed up all day? And I'm not like all like foo-foo into all that somatic work and stuff all the time. But if we just notice that it shows up in our body like that, and then we can throughout the day find relief, and then sometimes insert like a quiet 30-second shift, we can change the energy, not only of ourselves, but of our entire class. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah. You had touched on the 9 essential skills. That's one of the frameworks that we go through with the training and the cohort. And then I want to touch on the language of behavior after that, but we just fill in as far as what the 9 essential skills are and why it's so important for educators.
Yeah, well, we break it down into 3 groups: self skills, other skills, together skills. And if you know my stuff, you know it's that simple. Like, we have to simplify the language, we have to simplify the approach, the tools, the strategies, because otherwise we won't integrate them into our day. We have to remember them and we have to be able to model them so kids can understand them too. So Dr. Cameron Caswell and I, when we created those 9 skills, it took us forever to take really big concepts and whittle them down to simplified versions. So when we were in our cohort last week, and you and I talked about this, I challenged a couple of the people who were talking about a decision-making model that they were using. And it's kind of a simple model already, but it's still got extra steps in there. And I said this, it still takes up more brain power and brain space and energy to take that extra step. And also one of them has to do with outcomes. And when we're talking with students, we have so many externalized motivations that really aren't affecting us internally. Like, we want that that drive and that motivation to come from within. So the simplified approach that we talked about is the path of possibilities. Are you going here or there? And that decision you're making right now, is it leading you to what you want or don't want? Like, it's got to be that simple. But it goes back to that internal drive. So I was challenging that. And that is the space that we get to create. And because we know each other now, and I think there's a respect there. And so I felt okay to challenge him after I've been with him about 5 sessions.
Yeah. Well, and we've seen that with all the cohorts, is that it takes time to build that relationship, but then also that trust to feel like, and you do such a great job with this, Charlie, of allowing folks to share out and feel like they're being heard, and to build that in a quick amount of time of trust for them. When you are doing something like this where you're challenging, they're not offended by it. They're not putting up a wall or trying to defend. Like, they've been extremely open in all of the trainings that we've done. So I love that piece of it, of like having it not just a one and done, but something where we continuously come back to the same people and get to know them on a personal side. And I felt like this last session, or maybe the last 2 sessions for the one that we've been doing here lately, they've been sharing some pretty real and raw stuff that I wasn't expecting, but I guess we are building the safe space for them to feel like they can open up during this time.
Absolutely. And I think that's what they need. And I think in education, we have to open that door. So leaders and district leaders who are struggling to know how to support them, I think the cohort model is an excellent choice, because you're building community, but throughout the leadership team across the district. So even if it's across your building, you're getting those people the opportunity to talk things through that are really resonating with them, that they can go back and re-energize their staff at the next meeting. We give them the tool. We say, listen, take this back to your staff meeting. We show them how to use it. Take it back and start the conversation so that your staff can get the benefit of what you're getting right now. That's what it has to, any transformation, that's what it has to do. It's got to work from the inside out, because the demands of our industry, they're not going away. But we can still work within it and feel good about being there and still feel energized. I mean, I love it. I love that they were given the opportunity, and anybody that we're working with has been given the opportunity to come together and do this and kind of sort things through. But it's based on their needs. Remember, they directed it. Our objectives are always going back to what they need and what they expressed that they wanted.
So true. All right, let's talk about the last piece, which is the language of behavior and our 3 tenets that we've written in the book. How is that being offered, as far as the last component of the cohort?
So that's great, because we're linking that right in. So like the first part of it, the first tenet, which was a huge hit today, by the way, the consider your environment. We talked about the physical space and the social space within the environment. So it's about considering what might be going on and the tools that we use, the relationship inventory and the environment inventory. And so what we'll do is we're going to link that in as another measure of how are we doing? How are we even prepping for next year? How are we thinking ahead so that the next year that we can start with a preventative model? And how do we utilize those tools? So I love that the language of behavior is just a perfect kind of segue into closing up the cohort group so that they can prep for that next year. It's got that leadership component that they can do more systemically that I love. What about you? What stands out for you there?
No, I think what you just said is perfect. I think as far as this is a core group that was selected by leaders in the district. And so this isn't like you're going to take the information and only you are going to use it. It's supposed to be that these folks are disseminating and helping others with the same content. So right. I think that's what's exciting, is to see how these folks take the material and then to make an adjustment, because we have a lot of different positions, both teacher, but then also leaders, right? So we've got assistant principals, we've got principals, we've got district leaders. And so for them to take this information and then all be on the same page and then make tweaks to the campus that they're on, if it's a career readiness campus, obviously the things that they take from these sessions are going to be different than maybe an elementary principal or, a teacher. So I think that's where my excitement is because they're taking the info and then they're going to then start implementing it into the different systems. And I really want to see the other end of that, of how it transforms the students, the staff, and essentially the district.
Absolutely. And I'm excited when I hear people who are they're leading a school and they want their team in the school. They handpick people just in that building, just in just one level, like even just if it's elementary. I love when they come to us with that, because we can absolutely target the culture of their school, because every school has a different culture. And so, as you know, clearly, you're doing this work all the time. But it's neat because we can address their needs and then also let them talk through things as a group. So when they walk back into their building and they've come together as a team, the energy is just so positive. And that's what we keep hearing too. I love that part of it. It can be on a larger scale or a smaller scale. That's what's awesome about it. I love this model.
So Charlie, you said this morning, Tenet 1 was a success or something that people were excited about. We didn't really say on the podcast yet, but you had talked in regards to like 6,500 worldwide educators. So will you just talk real quick about that event?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So it was McGraw-Hill International, and they do such a great job supporting teachers. And so they asked me to talk about behaviors because they said behaviors are such a problem. It is like the biggest complaint. And that's no secret to you and I. That's no secret. But what's great is I was able to educate them on the background, like where's it coming from? What's happening? And we actually have more control over our classrooms than we think. We've got to give ourselves more credit. We have to be more confident. And that means we learn to regulate. We consider that environment, not only the physical space, but the social space. We're always taught about how do you set up your walls and your bulletin boards and your desks. But we're not talking about, when we're in teacher prep, we're not talking about how should we show up in our proximity for kids. Like those 18-year-olds, they hate it when we're too close in their space. So do those 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds. But how does our tone, our presence, all of that affect their outcomes and their behaviors. It does actually matter. But those skills and tools, they can walk away now with something really simple, those rapid resets that they can integrate, just something tangible, really, Josh, to give them the hope. There is hope that they were just craving that. And I've had so much activity as a result everywhere. All my social medias, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, people are reaching out to me everywhere because it resonated so well. So I can't wait to introduce them to the book and this podcast. I told them to come listen to Inspire to Lead because you've got a lot of great things going on, and our Language of Behavior podcast too, and the book. And there's just so much going on.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about resources. So obviously, if anything is resonating, you can head over to thrivingeducator.org. That's Charlie's website. And we have our book, The Language of Behavior, but we also have a free book study kit. So that's over at thrivingeducator.org/books. You can find that there because we want to make sure that if you are getting the resource that you're not doing alone, that you have someone else that you're potentially going through doing a book study with. And we want to make sure that you have a guide to go through the book with. And so we've got a lot of questions and ways to use the book in your campus or in your classroom. And so we want to make sure that we're providing that to you. And then, of course, you can reach out to Charle too if you want her to speak at your school, at your district, at your conference. Charle and I are going to speak together in just a few months in North Carolina. Charle, do you want to share about that event?
Yes, the NCMLE conference, it is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Anybody can go. You don't have to live in the state of North Carolina, and it's for middle level educators. I will also say, I know people who came who are on the elementary level and the high school level, and they got a lot out of it, actually. So it is essentially for the middle level, but everybody can benefit. K through 12, you really can. And so that's in Charlotte, North Carolina in March. I just can't wait to be there. You and I are doing a session together. We're doing our individual ones, but go and talk with us about it, or reach out and talk to Josh about the work he's doing or the work I'm doing. Because if you just sit there and keep doing the same things you're doing, you are going to burn out. You are going to spiral, and we just don't want you to do that. So reach out to all of these resources and conferences that we're going to be at and offer, because we can't wait to help you out.
Awesome. Charle, is there anything else you want to amplify while we're closing this conversation down?
I just want people to really reach out to you about the cohort you're doing to support those teachers who want to become leaders. It is awesome. It really is awesome. I wish I had that option. So go check that out, you all.
Well, if you want at least a hint of what we're doing, if you head over to joshtamper.com on that main page, you can actually download the Leadership Reflection worksheet. And it's honestly, it'll probably take you 15-20 minutes, but it's going to do a ton for you as far as identifying things that you should be putting more time into, or things that you're putting time into that's really a waste. And so we're going to use that document as our first piece to the first session on December 1st. So if you, again, want just to, check it out, see if it works for you. That's a lot of the work that we're going to be doing, is going through and giving a roadmap for success moving into, the upcoming year. As I know it's November, but folks need to understand that districts are going to start asking for applications and trying to look for those new candidates for the upcoming year very, very soon. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure that you're heading over to my website and applying as soon as possible, because we're going to be launching here very, very soon, and those doors are closing. So with that, Charle, you're amazing. I'm so honored to be working with you for the last couple of years. Can't wait for the work that we're going to continue doing together here and supporting educators all over this country. And I just thank you again for being on Inspire to Lead.
Grateful to be here. Thank you.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. We'll see you on the next episode.